Welcome back to The Backmarkers, the F1 podcast for new fans by new fans. I am Mike Hurley, and I am joined by my technical director, Austin Evans.
Sorry, I had to call in sick this week. I'm actually back at base, so you've got my counterpart.
There was
Easton
a weird
Avens.
Instagram drama about where's Bono, right?
I know.
Yeah, that was
Like,
interesting.
was it like FP1 or something where I was like, wait, that's not Bono's voice. Where did Bono go? It's a conspiracy. But that was quite a good Austrian
Yep.
Grand Prix. Man,
Yep.
I don't want to jinx this because obviously we've just, we're about the halfway point of the season, but we've had some really solid races in a row, and it's
Yep.
back to back to back for the next few weeks.
Well, we got a 2-week break.
I mean, no.
It will be back-to-back after the break.
Yes, that's what I definitely meant to say.
Yep.
Wait. Okay, I'll double check that. Anyway, I was definitely not planning on that.
The French Grand Prix is in 2 weeks' time.
Gotcha. Okay, so we got a little bit of a gap, but we also had, I think, a pretty solid race. So just to recap,
Please.
if you're just joining. So we had the winner, Charlie Leclerc, Verstappen P2, Lewis Hamilton P3, really putting Mercedes kind of back on form. Going down the rest of the list, we've got George Russell with a pretty impressive recovery drive coming up to P4, Ocon P5, Mick Schumacher P6. Excuse me, I'm just going to say that one more time. Mick Schumacher P6.
Do you mean the unstoppable Mick Schumacher? Is that who you're talking about?
Yes, the Hulk in Haas clothing.
Yeah.
Going down, we've got Lando P7, Kevin Magnussen P8, so really strong showing from Haas across both drivers. Danny Rick getting some pretty decent points with P9, and Fernando Alonso P10, although asterisk, he's being investigated after the race for a potential unsafe release or unsafe re-entry or something.
They said unsafe release, but I don't know what that is in reference to, and nobody seems to know what that was in reference to. So we'll see. I mean, honestly, as well, I'm not 100% sure if everybody has taken all of their penalties. Should we give a little explainer quickly for us about track limits and the penalty system?
Yeah. So there's been some drama, as there is in Formula One lately, about some of the stewarding issues and some of the rules and how they're selectively enforced. So this year, it was pretty clearly said that, hey, there's no questioning where the track limits are. It's the white line. If you're on the other side of the white line, or you fully cross it, or whatever the case is, then you are off the track, and you are going to, depending on whether it's, qualifying or whatever, either you're going to lose your lap, or if you do that enough times throughout the race, you'll get the black and white flag, which is your final warning. After that, you get a penalty. Now, this is traditionally pretty rare. Now, I'll say that the Red Bull Ring is a little bit more of a track that it's easy to just get a little bit off, as you saw many, many times throughout qualifying, a little bit in the sprint as well as in the race. But essentially, if you go over that white line enough times, you will get a 5-second penalty. Very rare to see in the race. However, we saw that for, I think it was 3 or 4 different drivers who got the penalty, and a lot more drivers got the warnings. So
yeah,
it's rare to see. It's definitely rare to see.
I was trying to note it down. I think 5 limit penalties were given to Gasly, Lando, and Zhou Guanyu. They all got given 5-second penalties for that. George got a 5-second penalty for something completely different, which we'll talk about in a bit, I'm sure. But yeah, lots of penalties up and down the field today. And as I said, still potentially more to come as we're reacting straight after the race.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we go into everything, this was a sprint weekend. So there was a lot of action Friday, which is always weird for me to get up on a Friday morning. I was literally driving to work listening to qualifying on YouTube TV, which was
I had it on during a meeting. I was in a meeting.
Really?
I was in a meeting. I was on a Zoom call, and I had it in a window, and I'm like listening in, and then got to see Lewis smash into the wall, and I assume I did this. Just a little eyebrow raise, Ooh. And then carried on with the meeting, and then continuing a little later on, then to watch George do it too. So I don't know
and that's
how.
when you closed the race. You were like,
honestly, at that point, I kind of stopped paying attention because then it's like I know where this is going to go now, like for qualifying. So I just let it roll off.
It was quite the qualifying. So unlike, I feel like the last actually couple races, there was not really any rain involved, but it was an exciting qualifying. So both Mercedes not only didn't finish qualifying, but wiped out in Q3, which is unusual. I think it's more of a thing where it was just a little bit of some unluckiness, and to be fair, it was very, very windy. But yeah, the sprint I think is where things got a little bit more spicy. Now, Mike, we've had a number of sprints last year. I think this is our second of this year. Every time I see a sprint, I go back and forth on it. This sprint, I was like, man, this could have just been in the race. Like, it was nice to see some of the recovery.
Yeah,
it was boring.
Yeah,
it was boring. Like, I was watching. I was like, yeah, Max is up there. Good job.
So there were a few things that were interesting. There was the Ferraris were fighting each other. So, but that lasted for like 3 laps. Yeah. After like 3 or 4 laps, it was set. The top 3 was set. Sergio stormed the sprint because he came right from the back because he got a penalty, another track limits penalty. So he got his time deleted in qualifying, so he got moved back. Yeah. And then Mick Schumacher defending against Lewis Hamilton for a bunch of laps. That was it, really. Really, to be honest, the only drama in the entire sprint was between the Hasses and Lewis. I agree with you. This was uneventful as a sprint, but I still remain personally a proponent of sprint weekends. Yeah.
It's like one of those things where it's nice to have the jeopardy. It's nice to have things get a little bit mixed up from time to time. I get the idea that you want to do sprints, potentially the more boring tracks, just to kind of spice those weekends up. And I will say, I do like watching a sprint more than watching like FP3 or something. Yes. Like, I get that. And it's nice also that they're giving more points, right? I do think it's worth it for everyone to fight and just kind of hang out. But that being said, it was one of those things where after watching the sprint, I was a lot less excited for today's race because I was like, oh man, DRS trains after DRS trains. But it really wasn't like that in the race. It was a lot more spicy. But man, Mick, I know we don't do like driver of the day or anything like that, but Mick was the most entertaining part of the entire weekend. That sprint, he was holding off Lewis hard.
Yep.
Like, what has gotten into Mick Schumacher? I feel like we were just a few races ago talking about like, oh man, he's got to like pick this up. Gunther's over here giving him an ultimatum like, hey, you got to like stop crashing, get some results. Suddenly he's come out of nowhere to get his first points and now getting really solid points almost in the sprint and certainly in the race.
I feel like I can kind of try and piece this together. So they were saying on commentary that he seems more confident this weekend after scoring his first points last weekend. I would say that a combination of that, but moving backwards, the Haas is a much better car this year. And I think Kevin Magnussen has been putting in some great results and has, I think, been able to demonstrate exactly what is possible. And I wouldn't be surprised if that combination is really pushing Mick forward. And we're definitely seeing a better race, not just in points, but just in his general this weekend, his overall. I mean, and last weekend, right, fighting Max the way he was, I think we're seeing a different side to Mick Schumacher, which honestly I'm pretty excited about. He's someone that I would love to see just continue to improve, if anything, just because of his family name.
Well, of course, and it's like he obviously had a great run through the junior formulas, and last year, like you said, was a complete just like, hey, this is how to be in a Grand Prix kind of thing. Like, Haas were so off the pace. Mazepin was hardly a great benchmark as a teammate. This year, it started a little rough because Magnussen came right out the gate, absolutely storming, and he was doing okay here and there, but a lot of mistakes, a lot of crashes, a lot of obviously just bad luck on behalf of Haas, who have definitely seemed to have a faster car than the results would indicate throughout most of this year. But it is just really heartening to see Mick really starting to deliver on that promise that sort of everyone kind of expected that he would have. It's kind of taken a little while to come out, but hey, I mean, he's out there scoring big points, and it's not even just the fact that anyone can have a lucky weekend or get a safety car or whatever, but he, especially in this race and in the sprint as well, was showing real pace, holding up Lewis, making passes. There's that one moment I'm sure we'll talk about later where the 5 cars were all mixing it up. He was right in there, even with some tire offsets. It's just really nice to see. And it goes to show, we've been down on a couple drivers, such as our buddy Danny Rick lately, but it's all about that confidence. It really shows you that if you feel confident in the car, you know that you can stretch your limits out. You
Yep.
can stretch the car's limits out. There's a lot more performance in there, and you see that when you between like some of the number 1, number 2 drivers. With like, oh look, everyone starts with the same car in that morning, but what you're able to get out of it is hugely dependent on what the driver has the confidence to try to pull out.
I think in general, it's showing that Haas's bet that they made last year for this year is paying off. They stopped work on their 2021 car earlier than anybody else to work on their 22 car and to put all their resources and time into that. And I think it's showing for them. I mean, obviously they won the lottery when it comes to engine. Asterisk. We'll talk about the Ferrari engine later on, but the Ferrari engine is performing better than the Mercedes engine. So I know they didn't chop and change, but like when you look at what is available this year, the Ferrari engine was clearly the one to go with, and I think that their car is just pretty well developed, and I think it's showing. Magnussen is 11th in the driver's standings right now, which is unbelievable considering he is ahead of Ricciardo. Both Astons. Yeah, Haas is in a much better place. They're 7th. I'd lost track of that, but they're 7th in the constructors.
Yeah. No, it's definitely sort of now that we're roughly that halfway point of the year, the order is becoming a little bit clearer because especially through that first 6, 7, 8 races, there's a lot of chaos. There are a lot of cars that seem more promising. But now that we've seen a really good spread of tracks and luck and stuff, it seems like obviously Aston are way off the pace. We've got Williams, who, maybe with Albon's car with the upgraded spec is a little bit quicker, but still not really there. AlphaTauri seems like they're kind of a little bit in no man's land at the moment. But on the flip side, you see teams such as Alpine, who have actually taken a major step, who are really dicing it up with McLaren. You've got, Haas. Yeah.
They're tying
exactly.
for points right now. They're both on 81 in the constructors.
And that's going to be a very fun battle to watch. But yeah, they're just like sort of this race, the season has just had a lot of just sort of interesting bits and pieces. Like every time I sit down at 6 o'clock in the morning and think, oh man, this is looking like it's going to be a boring one, we get something like this where it was just action packed the whole way through. We got to give just a moment of silence for our buddy Checo. That was a bold move of his, but was it first or second lap? It was very early in the race.
It was in the first or second lap. I know, honestly, I felt pretty terrible about it because Checo had such an incredible sprint race, and I was looking forward today to seeing him have a good shot at winning. Honestly, I thought this, considering just how strong he looked in the sprint, I think he came from 13th to 4th or 5th, something like that.
Yeah.
And in that kind of environment with like 20 laps, no pit stops, to be able to pull that off, I thought was really impressive. And I thought, oh, he's on the pace,
Yeah.
I felt pretty gutted for him, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that George did end up picking up a 5-second penalty for it. It's one of those things I think it was fair enough. I mean, first lap racing hard, a little bit more George's fault, but
see that. In looking at it, I couldn't see. It was beyond my ability to be able to judge. But as I said, it's consistent with stuff they've given in the past. And if anything we want from the judging and the rules is consistency. And so if previous incidents like this have garnered a 5-second penalty, then it should here too. But I mean, I will say, if we did do driver of the day, I think I would give it to George Russell today.
Would you really?
Yeah, I know. What the reason is, he twice came from the back of the pack, and I just because he took more pit stops, right? I think he did an extra
changed
stop.
His wing.
Yeah, and changed his wing and served a 5-second penalty to be able to finish 4th. I just thought that was really impressive, especially when he was complaining about the speed, which seemed odd to me. Because it's like, George, I don't really, can you not see what you're doing? I don't understand. But yeah, I was genuinely really impressed with George today. I think it would be between George and Mick, I think. I think we should just start giving driver of the day, because I think we're angling towards that.
It's Mick then.
I think if we
got to give it to Mick.
And I think what might be a fun thing, if we're going to do this, we have to decide together, right?
Okay.
So we'll make it a bit different that way. And I would 100% be comfortable going with Mick Schumacher. I feel he was awesome today.
It was a phenomenal race. It was a phenomenal race. But on top of that, there were some great moments. So we had Fernando, who was again really unlucky throughout the weekend. So he had an issue in the sprint race. So he was not even able to start his car. So he was actually on the grid, tire blankets on. They couldn't get it to start. So he completely missed out on the sprint race and started out with an interesting strategy, made a ton of progress throughout the race. But then he went from like hard tire to hard tire, so he was forced to take another pit stop. He had to do the double stop at the end because I guess, again, they didn't show it on the broadcast, but people are saying that he had to do 2 pit stops back to back because maybe he had like a loose wheel or something. Like, I feel for Fernando because he has been absolutely crushing it this season. He's been involved in so many of these great scraps, and then you see just so little reward coming out of that. I think he had a quote earlier this week saying like, "Oh, this is like my best season since 2012, and I should have like 70 points right now." Might be a slight exaggeration, but there's no doubt that he has been driving at a far, far higher level than his results would suggest.
I was tying up kind of like one of my favorite things for the race, but I wanted to kind of just talk about it in general. Fernando Alonso is having an incredible season. Like, I am loving watching him right now. Because this was like, we were noticing this, I think, it was last week, where like all of a sudden Alonso's here. I feel like that keeps happening. It's just like, oh, I'm not really keeping track of him. And then all of a sudden, Fernando's in the mix. He's currently sitting at 10 in the driver's standings right now. And honestly, if you look at his performance, he has scored his points, basically all of them, in the last 5 races. He keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. And the last 5 or 6 races, that's where he's consistently scoring something.
Yeah, no, it's been terrific. Like, it is good to see him, like, there's all this talk, like, oh, he's the most experienced driver on the grid and all this kind of stuff. And sure, absolutely. If I was, 40 or however old he is, I don't think I'd be able to be out there with all these 20-year-old dudes. But I'll tell you, he has not lost a ounce of sharpness out there. Absolutely. It's great to see that he is still looks like he's having a good time.
Yep.
And it looks like he has years of good racing ahead of him, which
I really like
to see.
that there is a clear there appears to be a good relationship between him and Esteban. And I think Esteban is only improving because of it. I mean, Esteban's sitting at 8th in the driver's standing, but I just think that Ocon is having a really good season, and I think that they seem to be working very well together. Like today, there was like a driver's order swap. Seemed no problem. There was no, we didn't need to hear it on the radio. It was just like, we're on different strategies today, and we're going to let Ocon through, right? I think that's just how it seemed to go. It's just like, they seem to be a really good team, and I think Alpine is clearly, as we said, benefiting from that. I would not have assumed Alpine to be having a better season than McLaren. And we said, while they're tied right now, I would say that they are having a better season than McLaren because Alpine are higher while McLaren is lower.
Yeah, McLaren, like, when they're scoring points, it's just like, oh, finally, we were able to get something, where Alpine are just, like, out there just racking them in.
Yep. Yeah, it's really great.
The moment on track when Alonso was going past Yuki pushed him onto the grass. He literally had 2 wheels on the grass, pulls on. As he's going into the braking, he's, like, finger wagging at Yuki.
That was so good.
What a legend, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
I'm so happy we got the onboard when he was doing that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like serendipity, right? We get like these beautiful moments, and he's just like, nah. Because apparently they have a pretty good relationship too, I think, Yuki and Fernando.
Oh, really?
I think I heard this once, that like Yuki loves Fernando. Like he really looked up to him. And I think unless I'm thinking of somebody else. But I think that's
it was
the case.
a terrific moment. Again, I think it's easy to understate how difficult it is to drive these cars on this track with these huge elevation changes. You can't see through so much of the track. And you see Fernando completely just sort of on the grass, and he's not even made it through the corner. He's literally like on the brake pedal and wagging a finger. Like, what? Like, we cannot lose Fernando Alonso. We cannot, like, we need to keep him in Formula One as long as we possibly can. I just absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great to see, right? Because it kind of like, I get sad about Seb, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to see him in a better place. I mean, it's honestly it's the same I felt for Raikkonen too. Like, they made me sad because there were these like legends, and they're just in cars that can't do the business for them.
Yeah, and Seb had a rough weekend, right? So I think he got spun around
Twice,
right?
but I think one was in the sprint, one was in the
one was
race.
sprint, one was race.
Yeah.
Because I think it was Pierre who tagged him, and it was very clearly Pierre's fault. Also, Pierre had just a weird race because not only did he tag Seb, but then there was some nonsense about like he took his pit stop but didn't serve his penalty.
Yep.
But I never got the clarification on that because they said that like, oh, it was under investigation and they let it go. So I don't know if there's some mitigating circumstances. I don't actually know what happened there. But regardless, even I think without potentially taking that penalty, he was still nowhere near the points. Like AlphaTauri, they've had sort of a very much a roller coaster kind of season. But yeah, it's not looking great for Pierre. I'll say it's. Well, I guess for Yuki either, since their like ridiculous crash last week. But yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm sure there's some uncomfortable conversations, especially now that Pierre has just re-signed his contract, which he may or may not have actually wanted to do. He's like, oh, great, I'm looking forward to trying to get out of here at some point.
I think I'm ready for a tire change.
You ready for a tire change?
Yep, I'm ready for. I'm
Already?
ready to box. Yeah, I'm ready to box.
Okay, all right, hold on, hon. I
We're
gotta
going
get
for a
us
one
ready.
stop. Right now.
Okay, we're going for a one stop. All right, ready, set, and go.
This episode of the Backmarkers is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Families can come in all shapes and sizes, and the variety isn't always reflected in the big wireless company's family plans. And that is why Mint Mobile is shaking up the wireless industry with their brand new modern family plan. Every line starts at $15 a month, and you only need 2 lines to get started. No matter how big or small your family is, you deserve to save on your wireless service. For people who don't like getting their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers their premium wireless service of $15 a month, and they'll give you the best rate whether you're buying for one person or for their family and their family plan, which, as I will remind you, starts at just 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Plus, this is my favorite feature, Mint Mobile's modern family plans let you mix and match data plans so everyone gets the right amount of data that's right for them. I know this is the same for me, right? Some people use it more, some people use it less, and so it doesn't make sense for everybody to have the exact same thing. You can have a pool and you can mix and match and spread it around. I think that's really, really great. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone number along with all your existing contacts. So switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month, including the modern family plan, go to mintmobile.com/backmarkers. That's mintmobile.com/backmarkers. Go there now and cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/backmarkers. Thanks to Mint Mobile for their support of the Backmarkers and Relay FM.
Time.
Okay.
Mike, how do you think you did?
I think I was faster than last time. So my previous Mint Mobile read, my last one was 1 minute 42.84 seconds.
I am happy to say 129.6.
Oh, look at that.
Pretty quick. 129.62. Mike, you've been hitting the gym. You've been.
Yep. I've been going for those gains. I've been doing
gotta work on
tongue
the vocal
massages. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. No, thank you. That was a bad thing to say. Can't take that one back.
We'll run that one again.
All right. Put this to the side.
Yeah, of course.
Carlos Sainz.
That was okay. So these days, when you see an engine failure, usually, you see a little bit of smoke, or oftentimes you don't see anything. They just, they lose their gear shift or something, right? Carlos Sainz's engine was a grenade in the back of his car. The fact of when they were watching the TV broadcast, he, comes to a stop. He was actually about to pass Max. He's under DRS. You see a puff of smoke. He tries to do the right thing.
Because it looks like liquid sometimes. I can't work it out if it's like a vapor or is it fuel or is it just smoke? It's like this white plume, right? It just fires out the back.
Normally, I would think it's smoke, but obviously that smoke is probably like some kind of burning oil or something.
Right.
But in this case, you saw sparks. You saw it was literally the engine was exploding, and not only when he slowed down a little bit, a chunk of the engine blew a hole in the engine cover.
I know, right?
But it was a scary moment, especially I don't know. I think especially since some of the big Haas crashes where the cars have been on fire and been split apart and stuff. I think the TV directors have been a lot more careful of what they show on the live feed versus when they cut away. They cut away. as Carlos is coming to a stop, his car is on fire. You see him trying to get out of the car. The car's rolling backward, and they cut away. I was like, this looks horrible. And of course, they cut back immediately, like 10 seconds later. You see, Carlos is out of the car. But there's a moment there where, like, the car, there's literally engine exploding out the side. It's rolling backward on proper fire. And you see Carlos trying to get out of the car and realizing his car's, like, rolling back on fire. Like, that was a scary moment. Obviously, just gutting for Carlos just because he was absolutely on par for easy P2, but that was man, you just don't see engine grenades like that in Formula One very often these days. I mean, back in the old days,
but
that was
like,
every other
that it seemed. I was like looking at it felt like the stewards weren't reacting quickly enough. Like there was just this one guy who like picked up and put a fire extinguisher down. Like the car was on fire. And it's, like I understand it's supposed to be a very complicated scenario, but like he was having to call them out. Like it was rough. I mean, I understand, right? People are like frightened in that moment. I did say, well, they should have got George in. He would have gone in.
George would have
gone and taken it right.
The car.
Yeah. George would have fixed it. Just get old Georgie in there.
I don't know. I mean, my thought, and it's just a thought, maybe it was a thing where the marshals, when they saw the car start rolling backward, maybe they kind of had a moment of like, what do we do with a flaming backward rolling car?
And someone got a wedge, but it didn't help. Like it rolled over the wedge. So
what it looked like, and again, I only saw the replay once. What it looked like was a marshal literally grabbed and like held the tire to keep the car from rolling. Which shout out to the marshals as always. But yeah, it was a scary moment. Obviously, another spectacular engine failure from Ferrari, and then to make things even worse, during the virtual safety car, almost immediately, Charles Leclerc is like, my throttle doesn't feel right. And, you figure like, oh, your teammate just blew up or whatever. Oh, maybe something. Oh, no, he had to literally, and again, I'm sure we'll hear more about it after the race, but it seemed like he was actually using his foot to like pull the throttle back. Yeah. I know on the telemetry, it showed that his throttle never went down below like 10, 20%. So he spent the last 6, 7, 8 laps of the race or so having to smash the throttle down, brake with his right foot, pull that throttle pedal back up from the bottom because it was getting stuck for some reason or another. What a heroic drive, man. Talk about spicy at the end of that race, man. Whoo! I mean, Ferrari obviously have some concerns after that explosion, but they've got to feel so relieved that Charles was able to actually bring that one in because they really did absolutely have that race under control.
It was going to be a 1-2.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think it was unknown which order that 1-2 was going to be in. Sainz was putting in a great race, right? You never know, right? But it looked like it was going to be a Ferrari 1-2. They were both running really well. They were running way better than the Red Bulls. And again, I think they said this is Sainz's 4th DNF.
Oh, has it really been 4 already?
Yeah.
Oh.
Right? That's rough, right?
Yeah. Actually, Sherlock in the chat is a great point. The drive reminded him of Senna's Brazil in 6th gear. Absolutely, right? Like the fact that he, like, just imagine how difficult it is, right, to drive these cars. Sure, he's got a little gap, but you got Max Verstappen 2, 3, 4 seconds behind you. That is not a comfortable place to be as your teammate's engine just exploded into flames and you are trying to use your foot to pull the throttle up every time. Like, all it takes is for that to get stuck just a tiny bit. You lose control of the back of the car. You go too deep. Your brakes overheat because instead of the brakes doing their normal thing, you're braking into the corner while the engine is still pushing you forward. He was having problems with getting gear shifts because the car couldn't always downshift because the throttle was being pushed in, and obviously you have to let off the throttle. Like, so much of that. Like, I am constantly impressed with Leclerc's just ability and whatnot. But it's moments like this that really show just the adaptability. Like, you don't train for something like that to happen. You have to figure that out and adapt to it on the fly under this immense pressure at Red Bull's home race. I cannot say enough good things about Leclerc and the way that he handled that whole situation because, man, I think there are very few people on the grid who could have pulled off the win the way that he did.
Just to correct myself, it was Ferrari's 4th. They both had 2.
Okay, that sounds a little bit better, even though still that's a lot of DNFs. But man, it's one of those things where, like, it was a terrific race. It was really, really sort of spicy all the way through. But man, you got to think that like a win like that is going to be one of those ones that you're going to remember forever, right? It's just like, there was a stat I actually didn't realize until they were toward the end of the race. I think one of the commentators mentioned this is the first time Leclerc's ever won without starting from pole, which is a weird stat, but I guess it makes sense. But yeah, I think rarely. Well, I say this, but Red Bull were okay, but I think they just way overestimated how much deg they had, and Ferrari were just like confident, like they knew that maybe the temperature was different or something. They just were confident, and they just owned the race.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were saying like Leclerc was incredibly confident going into this that he was going to have a good result. I think they said that it was expected the cooler conditions benefited the Ferrari then in a way that it didn't in the sprint. So I think but Ferrari should have dominated today, but they ended up handing a podium place to Mercedes.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, Mercedes certainly got lucky because I think Checo and Carlos would have both been well up in there. So I think kind of some of that was gifted. But again, as much as Mercedes has had a rough season, they have been fortunate, generally speaking, that I think Lewis is the only car who's not had a DNF this year. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I believe Lewis has been able to finish every race so far.
I don't think that's accurate, but we'll check.
But regardless,
nope, he had a DNF in Italy.
Oh, okay, never mind then. I take that back. But regardless, I think it's been one of those impressive things where Mercedes has had solid dependability compared to pretty much everyone else. And they've also been very lucky. Obviously George through that first chunk of the season had a lot of luck and safety cars and whatnot. But regardless, it's been a thing of like, even though the car hasn't always been there, the luck and the drivers have kind of made the difference in a way that the Red Bulls and especially the Ferraris have just been absolutely pummeled by just engine failures or just bad luck or whatever the case is. So props to Lewis and props to George for being able to pull out really the maximum and more out of the packages they've got. But it's certainly clear that Mercedes have made a step. Like they are not fully competitive, but they are getting closer. It's no longer you're seeing them bouncing all over the place and everything like that. Like it seems like they're really starting to get their heads around what is wrong with that car.
Yeah. I think that this weekend showed that. They were seemed very disappointed about the fact that they lost both cars. They were feeling very confident. Lewis was performing very well in qualifying up until that moment. It looked like he could have really gotten something special out of that car. He was flying along. I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Typically, where is best of the rest? Is it third or fourth?
Usually it's just whoever's not. Well, it's a little bit nebulous.
Yeah.
Typically, it's been, the top three teams since they've traditionally been way, way far ahead. I think it also sometimes applies to the teams who can't fight for the championship, but I would say traditionally it's whatever team is maybe fourth in the championship behind Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes.
Because that's what I was wondering, like this time, because Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes are actually pretty close together, and then there's a massive drop-off, right? So you've got Red Bull on 359, Ferrari on 303, and Mercedes on 237. Like, the gap between Red Bull and Ferrari and Mercedes is actually pretty close. I think it's like 60 points from Red Bull to Ferrari, and then about 70-something points or 6-something points for Ferrari to Mercedes. But then it goes down to 81 points to McLaren and Alpine. It is a huge, huge difference. So I was just wondering, because I was thinking, like, to me, I would assume it would be whoever gets fourth place this year would kind of be that, because they are like, then it goes down and there's like this huge drop-off, and then it's a close differences between the rest of the teams again. So I guess
I think it was kind of like that last year because Ferrari were very much in that sort of upper midfield. So it was like everyone was kind of fighting over who would land in third. Obviously, the top three are very much nailed on at this point. Slight chance that maybe Red Bull fall off or Ferrari pick up or something. But I think what we're looking at for the constructors is probably pretty accurate for that top three. Mike, I gotta ask. This is a really tough one for me, even though we actually did have a fair few bag markers. But it's literally. I just realized the top five were the only five. They were the only ones on the lead lap. From Mick Schumacher in sixth on, everyone was at least one lap down. Who's your favorite backmarker of the race?
Well, I would now be double awarding him, so I had to think about this in future races, but it would be Mick Schumacher.
He was quite literally a backmarker, even though he finished P6.
I mean, honestly, as well, if I was going to say, I would say Lando. I think Lando did a good job today. I think he's struggled a bunch, and scoring 7th after taking the penalty too. I think he had a good race, and he was involved in my favorite moment of the race, which I'll get to in a second. But who would you put in as your backmarker?
So I would say I would agree with Mick, but I feel like P6 is so strong. I'm gonna break my rule of breaking the rules. I'm gonna actually
Love
give
it.
it to Valtteri. Valtteri had I think he started from the pit lane, or
Yeah.
yeah, I think he started from pit lane, and had a quiet but very, very respectable race. Made it up to the points TBD.
Nope.
I'm not sure if Alonso
He didn't.
has
Well, I haven't got. We still don't know about Alonso, but he didn't make it
Yeah.
because I was actually considering Valtteri for my underperformer of the race.
Really?
Yes,
Okay,
because Alonso made it up further, and so did George. Like I would say that
Yeah,
there were a few drivers today who got penalties, who started from the pit lane, who really flew through the field, and I don't feel like Valtteri made as much gains as some of his compatriots there.
Yeah. No, certainly he was not actively a part of a lot of the shenanigans. I feel like he had a very quiet race. But anytime you start at the pit lane at the beginning of the race and you're able to get close to the points,
Yeah.
I feel like it was a respectable performance. How about underperformer of the race?
So I wanted to talk a little bit about Pierre Gasly today. Because I think last year, I was really considering Pierre as a star. He is he's just really pulling him home, and I was like, honestly, I don't know if he's going to stay at AlphaTauri. Like, I think he might go somewhere higher. Maybe they'll bring him to McLaren or something like that. And this year, Pierre I don't see him. We're not seeing him. He's far back in most races. He's, like today, causing incidents. We're not seeing that same Pierre Gasly that we saw in the previous 2 seasons. Pierre is currently at P13 in the Drivers' Championship, picking up 16 points. He scored points in 3 races this year. That's it. That doesn't feel like the Pierre of 2021.
I mean, I do think the AlphaTauri car was a bit better overall last year. I think they've had a couple of flashes where they're decent, but yeah, I mean, obviously there have been things like the incident with Yuki, which is absolutely Yuki's fault. But even so, like you're right, he just hasn't been fully on it this year, and I wonder because there's a lot of conversation about what's going on behind the scenes. It seems like he probably wants to try to move on, but he kind of was just like, oh no, he's still under contract with AlphaTauri. He's signed for another year. And I almost kind of wonder, like, is his motivation dipping? Is he just needing a little bit of just a break and a reset? I don't know what it is.
Or is it the car?
I do think, I think it's that. Also, I think Yuki has stepped up the game a little bit. So I think all of these things combined have made taken a little bit of the shine off of Pierre. I still think he's a great driver, but it's one of those things where, like, when he's doing well and he's got that momentum, he keeps going and he keeps going. But you look at, what happened when he went to Red Bull, right? Like he sort of got down a little bit like a negative spiral, right? And was never able to really recover. And I just wonder if that's a thing where he has maybe not fully gotten over that and really been able to, again, like we said earlier, find that confidence in the car to really get 100% out of it and always be on top of it. Because like the instant with Seb today, that was just sloppy. Like that was just straight sloppy. Seb gave him almost 2 cars worth of room, and he still came in on him. Like it's just that kind of stuff. And again, like last week, we got to remember Pierre was the one who kind of kicked off that first incident by kind of jumping through the front. Now, mind you, I think he had the space that time. But again, it's like these kind of incidents keep happening. And when you have a little bit of that bad luck and you have a little bit of that sort of slightly questionable judgment, it can turn into a snowball really quickly.
What was your favorite thing from the race today?
Oh, that 5-way fight, man.
Oh my
God. That was wild.
That was one of the best things I've seen. Like,
just like last week.
The Haas's, I think Zhou Guan Yu, Lando,
and was it
George?
No, it was Alonso.
Was it Alonso?
Dang.
Because it was just it started off as one person overtaking somebody else. And then all of a sudden there were 5 of them. And they were like anywhere between 3 to 5, like in a row. It was that was beautiful racing. Everyone stayed really clean. You know, they were giving each other just the right amount of room, but still making it exciting. It was like ballet. It was really just a fantastic moment in the race today.
Yeah, absolutely brought me straight back to Silverstone as far as just seeing these cars, being able to really sort of slice and dice, seeing everyone be respectful and give themselves time, but also be opportunistic and kind of hop on those things when you can, was great to see. I'm going to say I feel like every single race, so I apologize, but I love these 2022 cars.
That's so
It is
good,
just
man.
like so many of these great moments we've had this season, we would have not have had with those previous cars. Like the reason that last year's season was so terrific was entirely down to Max and Lewis and how close they were matched. But the rest of the field, we didn't see five-way fights like ever. We hardly saw like it was just DRS flybys and stuff. But today we saw like Lewis passing like weird parts of the track and whatnot. Like it's just energized the whole field. And even at a boring race without a ton of craziness going on, there's always something to watch. There's always some reason to be on the edge of your seat versus just sitting around and watching, the Red Bulls go, 50 seconds up the road and take a nap or something. Like it's really, really great to see.
Yeah, I don't really feel like we're getting a lot of that. I mean, there are a lot of races they have, like there's maybe 3 or 4 and they're on their own, and then there's a gap, and then there's everybody else. But last year and then the year before, sometimes you just get the first place holder is 35 seconds ahead. And it's like, this isn't, like at least this year, we're getting 2 sets of fights. You're getting like the front fight and you're getting the midfield, but they're both thrilling to watch.
Yes.
And sometimes it's like we're not even sure which one we should be showing you because there's always something going on. Like another thing I really loved today, there was I think it was Leclerc's first overtake of Max, and he basically just slotted the car right in front of him. Like he had just the right amount of room, and he took it. And it was just stuff like that. It's just really beautiful. And seeing again today, like overtakes without DRS. Yeah, that's awesome because it then opens up, as you say, like for these weird parts of the track for overtakes to occur just because the cars can get so close to each other.
I'm just constantly amazed. Like seeing a Formula One car in person, and mind you, I've never seen the 2022s, but I've seen the previous generation sort of, fairly up close. And it's one thing to watch them on TV. It's another thing to see how big they are in person, right? So I'm not sure if you're familiar with like a Chevy Suburban, right? It's this massive, massive SUV. It's pretty common in the United States. That's about how long a Formula One car is, right? Like they're 2 meters wide, and those wings, like from where you're laying down in the car, like you're not sitting. Like a Formula One driver is laying down in that cockpit. So like it's such a like you can see so little. You've got these huge wheel fairings. You've got the wheels in the way. Like you see so little. The fact that they can slice and dice like that with these massive wings that are like, feet and feet in front of them, and they're just not constantly just ripping wings off, to me is incredible. Like, obviously, a Formula One driver should be one of, if not the best drivers in the entire world. So, give them some props that they obviously are good drivers. But like, to me, it just constantly impresses me at how the car control at 180 miles an hour, there's not more incidents like, we've seen, obviously, from time to time, but there's so many clean races and there's so many just ridiculously great scraps. Like, I think it's worth just a moment just kind of appreciating what these guys are able to do with this machinery, which, is designed to race, but it's not easy to do that by any means. I would definitely leave my wing on the front. I go out. Look, I might be able to take the car 200 meters, Mike, but I probably wouldn't make it too much farther if someone was around me. I'd lose something. I'd definitely lose something.
By the way, I've had multiple people contact me to tell me that there's absolutely no way you could start an F1 car.
What? Who are these people? Are we talking to Otmar? Are you talking to Mattia?
Where do you think Bono's been? You know what I mean? Me and Bono.
I see.
We've been hanging out this weekend, and he's like, that Austin Evans, he couldn't start a car. I've had people that friends of mine who've been watching the sport for longer than me and you, and they're like, "There's no way you could do it." I just want you to know.
The thing is,
and also I know, in F1 2022, I have to hold the little clutch button. I'm not sure you could. I'm not sure you could make it work. What are the desired the revs? What RPMs you need to get to? Do you even know?
Here's the thing. The more I hear this, the more I would just spend hours and hours practicing on some stupid simulator or whatever. I feel like this is now like a personal challenge.
Yes, it is 100%. I'm throwing down the gauntlet on you. You can't. You could not start an F1 car from a standing start.
Here's the thing, though. Regular people can drive F1 cars. They do events like this sometimes. Obviously, they're typically the V8 cars. They're like slightly modified and blah blah blah. But like they do let regular people drive F1 cars. If a regular person with a little bit of practice could do it, I'm a regular person. I could do it. I'm pretty confident. Maybe not first go. It might take me a little bit of practice, but I'm pretty sure I could do it, Mike. I'm pretty sure I could do it.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced you could. I mean, because you said that we're not talking about a modified one. If they've modified it to make it easier to start, then that doesn't count, right?
It's just gonna find
in this
the clutch.
conversation.
It's a little paddle. You find the clutch point and you just give it some revs. Maybe a little. Look, I'm not gonna say it would be a smooth start. It might be a little bit much. I could do it. Hey, give me 5 tries. I could do it.
5 tries. All right.
5 tries.
That's fine.
You can write it down. 5
tries.
I'll do it.
Like,
and if not, then at least I got to pretend to drive an F1 car. So it's a win-win for me, but I'm pretty confident I could do it, Mike. I'm pretty confident.
Well, it was a win-win for Charles Leclerc today again, too. I was happy to see. I don't know in recent memory if I've seen a driver so happy to be on the podium.
Yeah.
He had his little smile. He was a very happy boy today. It was old Charles Leclerc.
I am so happy for him, and I'm so happy for this race. It was just after last race, which was absolutely terrific. I was like, oh, you know what? Watch the sprint. It's going to be kind of boring. But it wasn't. It was really just a super, super interesting race between strategy, between on-track action, between who's going to win, between who's going to get the points, between Mick. I mean, so many good parts of this race. Hopefully, this all carries across to what might be the last Paul Ricard race for a while, right? So, because I know that there's not a confirmed return date for France next year.
I didn't know that.
And I think
Did they ever settle Monaco? Because Monaco was the same deal, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I don't believe Monaco officially has a date on the calendar next year. It seems like it likely will, but
It's going to
Paul
be
Ricard
18
may get
races
the
next year, right? It's just like we add Las Vegas and then we lose the rest. That's what we're looking for 2023.
Oh, yeah. But
I
anyway,
like Paul Ricard. It's a beautiful track.
It's a good track.
It's
I don't know
beautiful.
how great the racing is, but yeah, all those weird like painted lines.
The
it
red
looks cool.
and blue. I really like it. I always in my mind like imagine it as that's surely the American track,
Yeah,
but it's not.
Look,
and it's like
Mike,
okay,
I'm just happy.
you know.
I'm just happy that the French have embraced the red, white, and blue of America, and I'm painted their entire
Oh my
racetrack
God.
to celebrate the United States of America. So thank you to everyone in France for adopting that. We all really appreciate it.
Oh my God. You know what? So I'm looking forward to the mid-season swap out of my teammate here, which is inevitably going to happen. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Backmarkers. We're going to be back in 2 weeks for the French Grand Prix. Vive la France is what I'll say.
Grand Prix.
No, Vive la France is what I'll say. Say bonjour to Austin Evans. Au revoir, maybe, instead. You can find us on Twitter. We are at Backmarkers Live. You can go to backmarkers.live for the video version of this show and backmarkers.fm to get the audio version if you're looking for either audio or video in your life and you have one or the other. Goodbye, everyone.
Let freedom ring.
I don't even know.
You set me up for that one, Mike. You know you set me up for that one. You set me up for it.
I don't
you
think
threw it up in the air, and I went, wow.
I take absolutely zero blame for what you just did.
Well, it's fine. It's fine. So I actually have.
How many French listeners do we have, really? You know what I mean?
I'm gonna hold my tongue now and say nothing whatsoever because I'm gonna get in trouble.
How many French listeners do we have? You know.
You're just baiting them now. You realize that like you're gonna get okay.
I can find out for audio at least.
I guess we could look up the actual the stats on how many people we get from France, but I assume probably not a huge amount because they don't want to listen to us. So I gotta actually say for everyone who's here in the cool down room, I have a secret little exclusive. In fact, Mike, I haven't even told you about this. I actually have something to show. I have some show and tell today, and I think it's something that we might appreciate. So, Mike, are you familiar with Topps F1 cards?
Well, I know about Topps. You know, like they do the Premier League football cards. I didn't know there were F1 cards.
There are F1 cards, and I recently opened up some for a video, and I actually have 3 cards here. So the thing with Topps, so what you look for are the numbered cards. So unlike something like Pokemon cards or whatever, which they might print, thousands and thousands of a particular card or whatever, some cards actually have numbers on them, right? So, for example, I have this Lewis card here, which you might not be able to see on the back, but it is a 35 of 199. So I'm not sure. Probably can't see that, but
Wow.
35 of 199, right?
It's a nice
so,
card.
You got,
Look at him.
right?
It's a good picture.
It is a good picture, but I got a couple more. So I got Lewis. I also have the greatest Formula One driver of the 21st century, Mr. Nikita Mazepin.
Oh my God, that's a what would you call that? Like that's a real collector's item. That
Exactly, and it's a 6 of 10, which is actually there's only 10 of these in the entire world.
Okay, that is hilarious to me. That you have such a rare card of a driver that probably nobody wants a card for.
No. Look, there's never going to be another Mazepin card, so I'm cornering the market. I have 1/10 the market on this, but Mike, I have one card that I think you might really appreciate.
Okay.
So this is a Kimi Raikkonen. Obviously his final season. I'm gonna flip this over. I'm not sure if you can see. Can you see this little number right here?
No, hold
this
on.
is a 1 of 1. There's one of these cards in the entire world.
Wow.
Of Mr. Kimi Raikkonen, and I got it right here.
That's wild that they do 1 of 1.
1 of 1. So, yeah,
that's
was an
fun.
Exciting. Yes. So, I'm not saying that the stacks of Pokemon cards that live on my desk are going to be going anywhere in replacement of F1, because I will tell you, F1 cards are really expensive. Like a lot of money.
Like, what are we talking?
Hundreds of dollars for a box.
Oh, wow.
Multiple hundreds.
Huh. Okay.
Yes. So I'm not going to say that the Pokemon card's going away anytime soon. But if you walk by your local card shop and you see a box of Topps cards, it might not be a bad idea to give them a try.
Is it just the regular Formula One Topps cards?
So there are a couple, I think there's 3. So there's the regular Topps cards, I think the paper, whatever they call them. Then there's Topps Chrome and Topps Sapphire, I believe. The Chrome and especially the Sapphire are like obscenely expensive. Like those are crazy town. But even the regular sort of paper cards. So these are, mind you, these are the 2021 cards. But the boxes are usually a few $100s.
Is it Turbo Attack? What is it? What are they? Chrome Turbo Attacks? What is this?
Topps.
I see Turbo Attacks.
I think that's a different.
That's like a
thing,
game.
but I'm not 100% sure. No.
I can't tell. I'm looking. Topps Chrome? Is that what you said?
Topps Chrome are the more expensive ones. These are the paper cards. But you can get in the paper boxes. I believe you can get Chrome and you can get Sapphire. I'm not super familiar. Again, I've only opened just a little bit of F1 stuff.
This is too confusing for me. Look at this thing. Max Verstappen card. Number 3. 300 pounds.
So I don't know. So
that's not even a number. It's just the number 3.
Yeah. So that's the thing with this Kimi card. Oh, actually, you know what? Here, I just literally found the exact same card I just pulled up. I was like, yeah, it's like $200. So with this Kimi card, it's a 1 of 1. So I actually don't know what the value is, but
well, it'd be more than $200 then, wouldn't it?
Probably. Right? Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that Kimi card paid for the box. So I'm like. So anyway, it's not gonna be.
I like how you say that. Like, it only pays for the box if you sell them. You don't sell them, so it doesn't. By the way, on our last episode, there were 30 people from France who listened to the audio version.
Oh.
So
okay, you know what?
So
that's. I'm only going to offend a fraction of the audience. I think that's a no.
You think that's a win?
I'm gonna shut up. No. I apologize. And
it's too late
just really
now.
Happy. I'm just happy that America has exported some freedom to France.
That is unbelievable. I can't believe you're doubling down on this.
It's the cool down room. You know, they had the thing, watch your language. I'm not gonna watch my language.
You're gonna have
I'm feeling
to donate
great.
that Kimi Raikkonen card to the country of France.
To the country of France. That's okay. They can have my Mazepin.
Nobody wants that. I don't even think he would want that. Like, literally nobody wants it, right? The only person you think might want it, Mazepin doesn't want to be reminded.
You don't think he's going to PayPal me $100 for his card?
What do you reckon he's doing now? Like, what do you reckon he does now? Like, anything? Like, what do you do after this? Because he surely didn't. I mean, I guess he's rich already, right? Yeah. I was going to say, like, he surely did not make retirement money yet.
No, but I think your dad being a billionaire usually means
he
you're
can just go
pretty
do whatever he
comfy.
wants, I suppose.
Yeah. But it's spicy, my friend. It's spicy. I'll tell you, you actually totally caught me off guard at the beginning of the episode. I, for some reason, thought that there were 4 races in a row. I was looking at the calendar this morning, and I missed the fact that there's an off week. And I was like, man, there's a lot of races back to back to back. But there is at least one gap week there. So you said that, I was like, really? But I didn't mean
Yeah, there's also, there isn't even 3 in a row. There's a gap, and then there's 2 in a row. Then there's the entire summer break.
Mid-season. Yes. No, look,
I don't know what you were doing, man.
Fronts.
Every possible way. You were wrong first, and then you were wrong when you tried to just correct yourself.
Look, I live my life incorrect and then committing to that incorrect decision. That's just I gotta commit sometimes.
That's Austin Evans' way, baby.
That's the way. So I'm just gonna go and put this back underneath my pillow where it belongs. After it's been graded, of course, and then I'm gonna get ready and I'm gonna wake up at 5 o'clock next weekend and realize there's no race and be very upset. So
there we go. All right, thanks for hanging out, everyone. We're back in 2 weeks.
Assuming that France doesn't cancel me in the meantime. So
You're
that is
gonna
possible.
You're going to be franceled.
No. If I can't get away with any of the stuff I said, you can't get away with franceled.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's nothing wrong with it.
Bye. I look forward to your new French-speaking co-host.